In this clip, I'm going to show you how to host a website for free in Microsoft Azure. Azure is a cloud hosting provider, so once you create an account and enter your credit card information, you can create all sorts of resources, like virtual machines, databases, machine learning workspaces, and many other services. But Azure App Service is a full-featured web hosting service that provides several plans. You host a website in an app service, and multiple app services can run on an app service plan. An app service plan provides the underlying virtual machines, or web server hardware, that your site runs on. There are various plans, starting with the free plan, and you can upgrade to other plans when you need more features enabled. For example, in the next module, we'll upgrade from the free plan to the paid shared hosting plan when we want to configure a custom domain to point to our website. But with Azure, you get a default name you can select yourself that's suffixed with azurewebsites.net. So it's actually usable if you don't mind the Azure Websites part. You can see there are a lot of frameworks supported for creating dynamic websites. Azure App Services has a lot of features for hosting web and mobile sites, as well as web APIs for applications to connect to. I have a couple of other courses in the Pluralsight library, specifically on app services and app service plans, if you'd like to know more about all these features. So let's navigate to portal.azure.com. which is the website that allows you to create and manage resources in Azure. I already have an Azure subscription, so I'll log in with the administrator account I have set up. I have Azure Multi-Factor Authentication enabled on this account, which is a good practice for administrator accounts in particular. So I'll open up the Authenticator app on my phone and copy the code into the browser to verify my identity. And that brings us to the home page of the portal. Let's go to Create a Resource and search for Web App. I'll select that in the search results, and we're brought to the screen to create a new web app. This is a type of app in the app service, so let's click Create. And now we need to do some configuration before the site gets created. Every resource in Azure, whether it's a virtual machine, a database, a website, or anything, needs to reside within a container called a resource group. This allows you to set security settings and script deployment of multiple resources, because applications are often comprised of multiple components. So let's create a new resource group for this web app, and I'll just give it a name. And now we need to give the website a default name. We can purchase a custom domain name later and point it to this web server, and we will be doing that in the next module. But Azure gives you a domain name that's a subdomain of azurewebsites.net, so you just need to choose something that no one else has already chosen. I'll choose PyShop Testing, but just be aware that this is a completely different domain name from the one you saw in the previous clip. This is just a subdomain of azurewebsites.net, and we could enter anything here. Next, we need to choose a runtime stack. This is the framework we want installed on the server for writing code in a dynamic website. We don't actually need a framework installed because our site is just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, but we do need to choose one to proceed. So I'll choose .NET Core. And we can choose to create our app service plan on Linux or Windows servers. I'll just leave the default of Windows. And next, we choose a region where the virtual machines hosting our web server will be deployed. Azure has data centers all over the world, so you can choose from many regions. There are sometimes several regions within a single country. Canada Central is located in Toronto, so I'll choose that since it's the closest. And at the bottom, we choose the app service plan. This is where we select the size of the underlying infrastructure we want, as well as the features that will be available to our website. Let's create a new plan so we can see the options. You can see there are a lot of different plans here. It opens to the plans most suitable for production workloads, meaning the site would run on faster, more powerful virtual machines. We don't need this kind of power for our test site, so let's go to the Dev Test tab and let's select the F1 free plan. You can see there are some restrictions. This plan only allows for 60 minutes a day of compute time, which is time that the web server's resources can be used in total. So this is obviously not suitable for a website that you expect to see high traffic, but it'll do for now, and we can upgrade this plan later if we need to. So I'll choose the free tier and click Apply. Okay, let's go to the next tab in the wizard, and I'll turn off Application Insights, which is a service that provides all sorts of monitoring of the website, like how many users are accessing it, and even the path they take through the pages. There's a lot of features in App Insights, but we won't be looking at that in this course, so let's turn it off. We won't be applying any tags, but these are used for organizing resources within Azure for billing and automation purposes. Let's go ahead and create this web app and the underlying app service plan. Once the resources are created, we can navigate to them from here. And I've created a shortcut on the side menu where we could see all the app services and choose the one we just created. But let's go to All Services at the top and search for App Services. And that shows a list of all the app services I've created within my subscription. I just need to refresh the list to see the one we just created, because there's a bit of a lag. So let's click on that, and we're brought into the overview page for the app service. This is where we can configure the various options for the website. There's information here on the home page for the FTP host name and the FTP username, but we don't have the password. So let's go down to the Deployment Center menu item. Azure App Services offers a variety of ways for you to deploy your site. You can store your files in a central repository where multiple developers can work on the website, and the repository can automatically deploy the website files into Azure App Service when you check them in or when you kick off the process. This is called continuous integration and continuous deployment. If you've heard of the term DevOps, this is a big part of DevOps. You can save the website files to OneDrive or Dropbox, and Azure App Service can pick up the files from there. Or you can upload the files yourself using FTP. So let's click on the FTP item. Now click Dashboard, and a panel opens where we can copy the credentials we'll use in FileZilla to upload the website files. Let's copy the endpoint information, which is the URL to the FTP server, and I'll open up FileZilla on this computer. Now I'll paste the FTP endpoint into the host field, and let's go back and copy the username and paste it into FileZilla also. And finally, let's copy the password and paste that in. Now, if we go back to the browser, you'll notice it says at the top that App Service enables you to access your app content through FTPS. FTPS is to FTP what HTTPS is to HTTP. And you already know that HTTPS runs on a different port on the web server. FTPS is similar, so we can't use port 21 like in the previous example. So let's type in the default port for FTPS, which is port 990, and I have to agree to trust the server certificate, just like before. We connect successfully, and the window pane on the right shows the files on the remote server in Azure. Let's drill into Site and www root. So let's navigate to the desktop on the local server file system and the subfolder with the website files, and let's copy those files over onto the remote web server. This is the same process we did with the GoDaddy server. Okay, it says the transfer finished. So let's go back to the browser, and within the app service in Azure, we can go up to the Overview tab, and there's a button at the top that says Browse. If I click that, a new browser window opens, and we're brought to the deployed site. You can see in the address bar, the site is using the domain name https pyshoptesting.azurewebsites.net. Notice that this is an HTTPS site. That's because Azure has an SSL certificate installed for its own azurewebsites.net domain. If we configure this site to use our own custom domain, like pyshoptesting.com, we need to buy and install our own SSL certificate in order for HTTPS to work and the traffic to be encrypted. So that's how to deploy a website to Azure using FTP. So in this module, you learned what to look for in a web hosting provider, and then we created an account with a web hosting provider, GoDaddy, and deployed our site using FTP. And finally, you saw an example of another web hosting provider, App Services in Microsoft Azure. We've come a long way from where we started. In the next module, we're going to look at some ways to configure the deployed website, including how to purchase a domain name from a registrar on the web.